Good afternoon, Scott Baker. I believe we are making history today. First better in a coat and tie. We've had a tie, we've had a coat, but coat and tie, this is history.
Well, the title of the field note we're talking about is High Status Leaders.
Oh,
Now, the other part of the headline is Who Do What They Ask of Others. Every now and then, I have all of these coats and ties. I mean, I used to be a TV news anchor, right? I don't get to wear all of that anymore. But it actually is probably a nice symbolic thing, which is, here's the issue. Like, we have leaders in our lives, people that run organizations that have a certain status. Maybe they dress a certain way. And then you feel like you're at some different universe than they are a lot of the time. So a leader who is demonstrating that they can and are willing to do some of the hard jobs, take off the coat, take off the tie, roll up the sleeves, get to work alongside the workforce, alongside the people that are on their team, that can be very powerful. Now, we would all just intuitively say, yeah, that's probably true. The field note gives a particular case example around a particular person. I think the question is, how do we actually live that out? Because no matter what level you are, there's a way that you demonstrate this. And the question is it something that you do with any degree? It doesn't have to be all the time, because then it really could be a little weird. But is there a consistency to the character that you demonstrate in your willingness to do the hard work?
right. No, for that reason, I'm not a big fan of Undercover Boss, right?
Yeah, right.
The show seems to be setting CEOs up for the fact that they're just doing it for show, right? And they should be doing that all the time, right? And
Yeah.
of course, it's reality TV, so it's contrived. So that's another reason that I don't like it. But I think the main reason I don't like it is because it might give you the idea that going undercover once is all that you need to do. The way that Jim Fish here, as explained in the field note, is that he doesn't do it as an undercover boss exercise. This is a regular practice for him to do.
Yeah.
Which is very different.
So, and in that one, he's the CEO of Waste Management, and they are one of the larger, providers of they pick up your trash. They pick up my trash, right? They're actually the service provider for my neighborhood. And so when that truck comes by, and we all see a truck like that, and you see the guys that are doing that job, you're like, that's tough work. Now, for the fact that he goes, and it's not that he's on a truck 20 times a year. Sometimes it's a site visit. Sometimes it's working with the team. But a lot of times he's been on the truck. And it sounds like from this article and other articles about him and this practice, there was one in Fortune recently, that he probably did do it. Like, in terms of, they call it throwing trash, right? That's the phrase used in the field note. And that's like whether you picking it up, throwing the bags in the back, whatever it is. And he would do that. And then at some point his board said, well, don't do that, right? Now, they're not like against him demonstrating the willingness to pick up a trash bag. Well, what you don't want to do is have your CEO of your multi-billion-dollar company slip off the back of a truck and break his neck, right? There are risk factors involved in what you demonstrate. So you got to balance, this and that. And you say, well, what about the other guy? Well, there's all these sort of things. It's kind of like, well, how hard do you want your quarterback running down the field when he might get, wiped out and lose his throwing arm?
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, if whatever the board of directors told him you can't do for those safety reasons, it should get Jim's mind working around the idea. Okay, so what are the safety concerns? What are we asking people to do every day of their lives?
Very much, very much, right?
Yeah.
Well, and that. So first of all, let me ask you. I mean, have you? I was trying to think. I've sometimes worked in organizations where I do think that the person that was running the team generally was capable of doing some of the work, and sometimes in moments of crisis or demand or pressure, they did step in. Now, if they were stepping in all the time, it would start to be a little like, you don't trust us? Are you micromanaging us? What's going on here? But it was helpful and positive to see that they were willing to stay late, work the hard hours, go, answer phones, whatever it was required to make that happen. But I can't remember that I've worked for an organization, me, and maybe many other people probably have, where you're like, I don't think the boss would be willing to do this.
Right. the willingness to do it is really the symbolic thing.
That is, yeah.
The function of it is about my boss understands how to help me with the problems that I'm actually having, right? And so the fact that you don't have to re-explain that to your boss, like all the context that comes from a middle manager having to explain up the chain why it is that the line workers are having issue, and trying to convince them and having all that context takes a lot of time. Whereas my guess is if a CEO like this, who actually goes out there once a month and tries to figure out when someone is trying to bring them context, they understand immediately, right? And he probably feels even a little offended that he didn't think of it himself, right? When you're bringing what the issue is. And that's what's really is powerful here. If I'm a line worker and I know that my boss comes out once a month, it's not about he's willing to do it. It's about he's willing to understand. He's willing to listen. He's willing to, when I have a complaint or a concern that I'm trying to pass up the line, he can understand how important it is without me having to, to shed blood before he really listens. Right.
Yeah. Right.
And that's it's
a way to understand the people. It's a way to understand the processes that are all involved. It's a way to understand your clients often, right? And sometimes people will do it for that reason as well. Now, I actually I've talked with someone who was on Undercover Boss as an undercover boss, and we actually have somebody connected to our firm related to that person, and so it's you kind of say, well, that doesn't mean you don't go on Undercover Boss if there's a reason to kind of highlight your company or whatever else. But we all know when we see this being deployed in ways that are not effectual, and it's usually the politician, right, who's trying to pretend like they're actually helping clean up. They're trying to pretend like they're actually waiting on tables, whatever that is. And you're kind of like, all right, it's worse. Right? Yeah. Wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you rather just have a politician who's like, I don't know how to do this?
Right. Yeah. No. If the idea of it is that you're trying to create a photo op, that's where it loses all credibility for me.
Yeah. Right.
But if the idea of it is, I'm really trying to understand. Like I want the context of your working conditions so that I can help. Like and that's really what a boss should be doing, is trying to free up their workers to be able to be as productive as possible. And so if there's something that's standing in the way there, I want to be able to know and understand what that is. So I'm interested in what was their experience on Undercover Boss? Did it feel, I'm clearly it feels more like a production, but if I was a boss in that position, I would want to figure out if it encourages me to do it more often, or is it just like participating in a brief documentary?
Yeah, right. Well, I think that I don't know that I got a real clear picture of that. I think that obviously is well, let me put it this way. It'd be rare that it would be a good practice for the CEO to just kind of be trying to be incognito, in a large organization. There's no point in that. Just be the guy that's willing to come in, right? Be the guy willing to kind of walk around the store, talk to folks, understand if you need to help out, then help out, do what you need to do. That's more authentic. I think that's more helpful than trying to I'm going to trick people, because if you're going undercover, now you're trying to spy on them. You're trying to kind of be like, did I find out some stuff that's really going on, right? I don't think that helps or builds trust. So look, I mean, I think that there are great examples. We often, in talking about this idea that's in this field note, use examples. I'm not a mile or so from the Ohio River, and this is where Meriwether Lewis came to Pittsburgh to kind of get the canoes built and the boats built and the things that they were going to take, and as Lewis and Clark went across the continent. And we often kind of point to the journals and the contemporaneous journals after that odyssey of the people that were on that trip, that Clark was able to lead that team and dozens of people over a very long period of time, over a very long geography, terrible conditions, all kinds of problems. And they actually had they didn't lose. I think they lost one person to appendicitis, something like that, and there was no major sort of rancor. Right, there was problems at different moments, but part of the reason why he was able to do that was that he would write and talk about that he wasn't asking anybody to do anything on that voyage that he himself wasn't willing to do. So in terms of cleanup and all of the you can imagine just all the things you have to do and kind of moving canoes over hard territory and all of that. There's the guy. He's the one that recruited the team, got everybody on board, and he's out there doing it. Well, great. That's a big part of it. Now, the next part I'll add to this is, because sitting right here on the Ohio, right at the confluence in Pittsburgh is the building that Alcoa used as their headquarters for a very long time. And Paul O'Neill, who was the CEO of Alcoa, who I only met once actually backstage at a U2 concert, he was famous for his focus on safety. And his point to his managers, his leaders, was that you were required to review any major safety incident within 24 hours and communicate with the people that were directly involved. It didn't mean that you were necessarily there going to be doing the detective work, but what you were doing symbolically was saying, I am interrupting my day to make sure I understand exactly what's going on here. So this is also part of it. It's not just showing up to be like, hey, I brought donuts for everybody. It's showing up to say, okay, we're having a problem. I'm here, right? I'm taking a look at this. And the symbolism, not only of me being here and doing this, but the symbolism of me saying, I've reoriented my priorities around this. Well, that's going to now elevate everybody's attention. That's another shading on this. It's not exactly what's in the field note, but it's an extension, a logical extension of where this idea and this behavior takes you.
Right. I can't remember the name of the term, but we've kind of talked about this before from a Japanese practice of actually walking the floor and doing that kind of thing. This is a little bit more involved with the idea of like how do you really truly understand it? But it we're setting it up with the idea that as long as your people need to understand your team members that you're willing to do whatever. So how frequently do you need to actually practice it for real to be convincing enough to be like, I'm willing to do it, right? And my guess is it's more than a couple times a year that you need to sling trash in order for them to understand he's willing to do that chore, right? And so that shows up in a lot of different ways, where it makes me think of my kids in my chore chart that we have around the house. Like how often am I just doing it for my kids, is an important kind of number. If I refrain from doing it for a year, it would be noticeable, right? My kids would complain. They would, but the fact that I'm not getting those kinds of like complaints, like why doesn't dad have a chore, right? Because they kind of know that I'll chip in and do all the chores at any given moment. But it would probably only, at this point, if I were to if not help at all, I'd probably be able to get away with it for about 4 months before I started to hear
what's going on.
Yeah,
right. Well, one of the other parts of that is also thinking about this as do this with me.
Yes.
Right. That's a way also of kind of getting people around. You can imagine a company having a particular event day, a work day, a charity day, a volunteer day, and the boss is out there helping on it, like a Habitat for Humanity project. That's all well and good. But when you, and maybe even we think of the parent-child chore idea, which is, I need you to do this, right? But it's also a do this with me. I'm going to go work on this. Now come and do this with me. Dad's doing it. Mom's doing it. Whatever that is. And you can even have siblings saying, you help your sibling as she does this, right? All we're doing is that's just character formation. Now, the demonstration of the leader doing it alongside the people on the team is a deeper motivational element, right? That and ultimately it's answering the question. And maybe this is the heart of it for this podcast and for this field note is, why should anyone follow you?
Right.
Well, this is, as it's outlined in the field note, is one of the major ways to understand that.
Right. No, I would, if I was a CEO, I'd like to serve on a marketing campaign committee at least once a year, right? I would like to find a position somewhere in the accounting team where is it going to be a 2-month sprint? But I'd like to be involved with the 2-month sprint, or in some way.
Yeah.
Right. And there's lots of different ways that you can show up that don't exactly include riding on a truck like Jim Fish does, but it should be something that is done regularly.
Dynamite. Love this field note. Thanks everybody for this Sunday, January 11th, for joining us on this conversation. We'll look forward to talking to you tomorrow.